Good morning. Welcome to Unity Longmont Spiritual Center on this morning of October 4th. We are blessed to have Bobbie Wilson as our speaker and leading meditation today, and to have Clint Brown and Connie Schaefer for our music. So we'll start off with a piece of music. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Clint.
Here's the way we die. You can make the mountains ring, or make the angels cry. Though the bird is on the wing, and you may not know why. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Some may come and some may go, we shall surely pass. When the one that left us here returns for us at last, we are but a moment's sunlight fading in the grass. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. If you hear the song I sing, you will understand. You hold the key to love and fear, all in your trembling hand. Just one key unlocks them both, it's there at your command. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Right now, right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Clint and Connie. It's at this time that we go into prayer together, and we do that by taking a breath together. Today we celebrate the life of St. Francis, and we are reminded of so much wisdom in some of the things he said. For he reminded us that it is in the giving that we receive. At this time during the pandemic, there are new and creative ways to give to people. So let us find the simple and meaningful ways to do that. He also reminded us to start by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. I invite each and every one of us to be aware of what we think is impossible and yet we yearn to do. And let us listen to guidance to figure out how to do that. And so it is. So have another piece of music, please.
So this is a song in from the 60s and 70s, originally by Pete Seeger and made famous by the Byrds. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. Everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time when you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. Through everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time of love, a time of hate, a time of peace. I swear it's not too late.
Thank you, Connie and Clint. And now we turn to Bobbie Wilson.
Let's start with a little meditation. So get comfortable in your chairs, by your computers, and just close your eyes and take a deep, relaxing breath in and let everything out on the out breath. And again, another breath in. And all your worries and concerns, thoughts, or ideas out on the out breath. And for just a few moments here as we sit in meditation, we're going to let everything be as it is. We're just going to allow whatever we hear, whatever we feel, to simply be there. And now we're going to call in, as Dan Kendrick does so well. We're going to call in the light. Just call in the light. We don't even have to have any idea what that is. And let it fill you. Become aware of it in your body. Become aware of it surrounding every fiber of your being, glowing, illuminating within your body and emanating from within to without. And as you do this, become aware of the actual, palpable, physical sense of the presence. As if there is another being right next to you or within you. You can feel the energy of it. You can feel the reality of it. And now rely on that presence. Trust that presence. Trust that part of you that you have just called in. To be there for you all the time, anytime. It is your source and supply. It is your guidance. It is Spirit. It is God. Now let us abide in that presence a few moments together as a group. And when you're ready, keeping that sense of presence with you, allow your eyes to slide open and become aware of the room around you, of the presence of all of us on the screen. And so it is. So today, I'm going to talk about prayer. This talk, usually I check in, what am I supposed to talk about today? And this came in quite clearly. Today is for prayer. So I was thinking about sort of the development of prayer in my own life and how it, from a very early child, I was raised in a church-going family. And I was taught to say my prayers at night, kneeling beside the bed and asking God to bless all of our relatives, to give us what we need, to help people to get better if they're sick. Very basic little childlike things, because we learned at that age, and our concepts weren't very well developed then, but God was sort of like the overall parent of everything. And so, because we were children, we learned to ask God like a parent or like Santa Claus to give us the things we think we don't have. But as we get older and we continue in our prayers of asking for things we think we don't have, not that that isn't effective or not that that isn't correct. We can do that. But if that's all we do, then that for many of us supports the belief that we exist in lack and need to be supplied. And so it really supports the idea of we're separate little beings, sort of inept in our own self and unable to create what we need. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, except it just supports separation. And really what we're trying to do in our spiritual life is get to unity. So let's explore the idea of lack here. If I think that I don't have what I need, that's an energy that pulls me into a low, isolated state. I may feel bereft. I may feel incapable of meeting the challenges that come up in life, and there are always challenges. Because I feel alone and God feels far away. And so I send up a prayer if I'm doing the asking for things kind of prayer, and I send a prayer up through the cosmos, and hopefully God hears it and receives it. And it's like that movie, have you seen the movie Bruce Almighty, where Morgan Freeman plays God? And he exists in this big warehouse full of overflowing filing cabinets where all the prayers are each piece of paper is a prayer, and he's kind of at the end of his wits. So all the prayers of the world come up, and then God selects which ones to respond to and who needs what. Now, I want to say there's truth in that, because all supply comes from our Creator. And this type of Christmas list prayer recognizes that truth. But as we mature as spiritual beings, something tells us that this childhood Santa Claus God isn't the whole story. It's a belief in a mental image that we built when we were very young, of God sitting on a cloud in a throne with his scepter, making all the decisions and giving out all the good and punishing all the bad. And that image begins to defy reason as we learn more and more about the world and about science and about how the world works, what's really out there in the heavens. I can remember the first time I really began to question that. I was sitting in English class in 12th grade. And I'm like, that can't be true. There's more to it than that. And so that began a breaking down of that childhood belief system in me. But it wasn't replaced with anything for a long, long time. And I began to think of myself as agnostic or even atheistic. And that existed well into my 40s, I think. So if we are still clinging to that Santa Claus God, it'll either keep us stuck in an immature spirituality where we think of God as a distance far away. And it really reinforces the belief that we are separate from God. So as I went along in my life in my 30s and 40s, doing my thing, thinking I was my own God, I could make things happen, I could get things done. And there was a certain element of truth to that, because I had energy, I could make things happen, I could do things. And, just through sheer force, sheer using up of my intention, my energy. However, there came a point when things stopped working like that, and life kind of broke down, and I was at my wit's end, and I didn't know what to do. It was called reaching bottom. And that's when we begin to realize that we aren't sufficient in and of our human selves, that there has to be more to us. Why are we here? All those existential questions. What does it mean to be human? And so as my life began to be unmanageable, I found 12-step. Now, here's an atheist going into a community that came to believe that a power higher than myself could restore me to sanity. And I'm like, oh, here we go with the God stuff again. But at that point, I was so bereft and so needing something that I thought, well, I'm just going to research God. So I started reading books about God. I read about religions and the history of God. I stumbled onto Cynthia Bourgeault, who is a New Thought type of, I think, Episcopal pastor. And she wrote several books on the devil and how it developed through Christianity, and it wasn't always there. And then I stumbled into A Course in Miracles, which kind of restated the whole God thing, using Christian principles to say that, Jesus never taught that God was this thing up in the sky. Jesus taught, I and my Father are one. Jesus taught the kingdom of heaven is spread out upon the earth, and men do not see it. So that opened my eyes and my heart to getting back into doing some kind of praying. And as I did that, and things began to happen, things began to be better, things began to look up. Prayers were getting answered in sometimes miraculous ways. And as we continue praying to what we don't know, to a mysterious kind of presence, we come to trust that this presence or this something is there hearing and answering us. We get a felt sense of the presence of God. And we come to believe that God is nearer than we had thought, and he has our best interests at heart. So we develop that trust in this Godness, whatever it is. And we do away with the old image of a human being and a wretched state asking God for what they need. We come to trust this God. We come to feel his presence closer to us. And so our prayers begin to take on another quality. They move from supplication, asking, to reassurance. God is here, God is here, God is here. And we become assured that God is near because we can actually energetically feel God's presence. As when Dan asks us to call in the light, there is a palpable feeling of a presence right here with us. I stumbled onto a book recently by Lynn McTaggart, who is a New Thought author. But before that, she was an investigative reporter. And she was interested in how this spirituality works, how this Godness, this presence that we sometimes feel operates. And so she has conducted experiments in conjunction with scientists to test the power of intention and thought on various objects. She started with seeds and leaves, and she got people together and at first in person, and they would concentrate on a tray of seeds and tell them to grow and glow. And then they had a control group of seeds, and they weren't the object of the prayer. And so the ones that were the object of the prayer showed much better growth than the ones that weren't. And then she moved to healing people through this concept, where she would get groups of people together and they would all concentrate on one person who requested a healing prayer. And in her books, she tells of the startling results that this form of focused intention has. Seeds and people and leaves and any object shows growth and health when people pray over them. Now, she didn't use the word prayer so much as she did use the word of focus and intention. But still, that's a form of prayer, isn't it? It's a form of reaching out into the cosmos and saying, I trust the cosmos to come and create a miracle. And it's also a form that actually gets people together. You feel the connection between the other people, the other participants who are doing this form of concentrated intention, focused intention. So there's a linkage between the object and each person, and between the prayers themselves, the people who are praying. So this form of what her work has almost scientifically tested out the idea that we are all connected. And so we have a connection to each other and to the creative force of the universe. And it demonstrates that this kind of prayer is a mechanism that activates the innate power within each of us. None of these people doing the praying was particularly a gifted healer or had any kind of ESP or whatever, but within them, within each of us, there is a sense that there is this innate power. And this innate power activates when we allow it, when we become aware of it. And when we do, it gives us the sense that we are allowing God to act through us and on each other. And as we do that in our spiritual journey, prayer becomes a real spiritual force that exists in our connection to each other and to God. And so we begin to actually feel the unity a little bit, feel the oneness, feel that we're all connected in this web, in this spiritual web. And what happens here affects what happens there. And as we become more aware of our connections, our relationship to God becomes more intimate because we sense God right here. We practice calling in the light of our consciousness, and we begin to see the world through the eyes of Christ, the way Jesus saw it, as a miracle, as the kingdom of heaven, rather than as a hot mess of problems, which is what our little selves see when we are not connected to our source. When we are in the presence of the light, instead of unsolvable problems, we see only the potential and the possibilities. The light whispers in our ears the words to say and the actions to take. And as we see the results of that, we begin to trust that the light will guide us. So I have an example of that. This week I was meditating with compassion. Compassion, I believe, is a facet of the presence of God. It's one of the aspects of God's nature. And I was meditating this week on compassion and how it heals old wounds and how it guides us in our interactions with other people. And of course, Spirit just brought me a very upset person one day, really upset. And normally in the presence of that energetic, that upset, I would get defensive, or I would really try almost like an emergency to diffuse the upset, you know, like you have a thing that has to stop. But instead, because I was in that presence of compassion, I was aware of that within me, the perfect words came. I didn't get defensive or angry, and I only felt a calm assurance that I had a partner in God, that we were together acting as we were confronted by this very upset person. So as we practice with those facets of God within us, be they compassion or helping or kindness or love or faith or trust or whatever, we become more and more aware and trust that we have a partnership with God in creating new possibilities. We feel God within us. And that's what Jesus said, the Spirit of God is within you. Why don't we trust that? 2,000 years ago, that was pretty apparent to him. It becomes real to us as our prayers move from this supplication of asking for things that we think we lack to reassurance that God is present. All we have to do is call on him, to partnership with God. We join with our Creator by opening to receive the light of presence and then feeling the guidance of our next action, of our next words. And so, as we mature in our spirituality, our prayer takes on these new and most amazing forms. And ultimately, our experience of unity with each other and God becomes fused in such a way that we begin to stop making distinctions between ourselves and God. Last week, Jenny Hooks vividly described her week working with disturbed children and going into their homes. And her prayer every day was to see God. So every day she would go out and I'd say, I want to see God today. And God showed up as a disturbed child, as a grateful mother, as a caring police officer. So as we give our prayer in sort of a certainty that this is possible, that God is our partner and we take him into our life with us, we begin to see our separation from God disappear. And prayer becomes a living, continuous experience and an experiment in unity. How much closer to God can I get today? We are in communion with God. He's there all the time. We're there all the time. And I use the pronoun he loosely because God is not a thing. It's not an object. But even as we practice with this presence of God, and we still see God as the other, there's more to go. Finally, as prayer becomes our habit, our way of being, our abiding in the presence of God, in the presence of who we are really, it leads us to the awakened realization that there is no lack, no other. There is no one who is praying. There is no one who is meditating. There is no one to answer the prayer or the meditation. We become completely merged and unified in our beingness, God and human as one. There is only God, and we are that. It is a state of infinite stillness and potential. Infinite stillness and potential. This realization may come in brief instants where we kind of peek under the tent. And we go, oh my God, there it is. And then it fades away. For a few souls, like Jesus, like the Buddha, like Ramana Maharshi, like Ram Dass, it's abiding. Like the Dalai Lama, it's always there for them. But it can be facilitated and more likely to present itself when we practice a prayerful attitude through meditation and prayer. So I was given this image and I kind of like it. Prayer is our spiritual bicycle. It takes us on a tour of the world from ever higher vantage points until it brings us home to ourselves. So let us get our spiritual exercise by riding the bicycle of prayer. And so it is. And I just want to mention at the end here that actually Unity is going to start riding its own prayer bicycle Wednesdays. Beginning this next Wednesday at 5:30, our prayer care Zoom group will be meeting for an hour to pray and meditate together and also bring our concerns and our hurts and our illnesses or whatever to be prayed over. So I invite you to join us and thank you, and so be it.
Thank you, Bobbie. What a gift you are. And we will have a piece of music from Connie and Clint.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom There will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. When the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine until tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, yeah, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, yeah, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be.
Thank you, Clint and Connie. It's at this time that we go into our donation of light and love. We take a breath together and allow that light and love that exists within us to expand. The light, the love, the faith, the compassion, all the attributes of God are within us. And as it expands, we increasingly have awareness of the divine presence. And as we give, so we receive. And so it is. And another song by Clint and Connie.
I open my heart, may it always be with you, nurture and sustain you, even when we're apart. I offer my love as we journey in spirit, for all who are near it. I open my heart. The vision shines through from a master inspiring, through the strength of your wisdom. Lead the way to the door.